Once again, how you doing? This is Jerry Logan, professor, talking about Intro to Sociology, or Chapter 4, or could be Chapter 5, depending on which course, regarding socialization. But in particular, it's really Chapter 4 for socialization. And basically, this particular one, I enjoyed reading the comments and the discussion questions from the previous one having to do with culture. Great answers. You all are doing great. Continue on, explaining your answers thoroughly. Keep in mind, points is 25 points per week. So we're just going to continue on with the same format. So, get into the questions. This chapter is very interesting. So, we learned a lot about culture in the last chapter and how important culture is and how it affects society. And also, it plays a role into the socialization process. So, for this particular one on socialization, I always say socialization and culture is huge. Socialization is the piece where I need you all to spend some time reviewing my video, reviewing the PowerPoint presentations as you prepare for the exam, because this is the last chapter for the exam. So, but this particular chapter, I want you to do more research. Number one, do more research and review chapter 4, the PowerPoint presentation on George Herbert Mead, one of the early symbolic interactionists. I need you to explain his viewpoints on socialization. It's very important how he talks about socialization into the mind and itself. Knowing like the self was not there at birth. You learn to acquire a self. So read over that a little bit. Feel free always to do more research and review. But what is your opinion of his approach to socialization into the self and mind? So I need you to explain George Herbert Mead's approach to the self and the mind and his own socialization. Um, Also, talk a little bit about more like of your opinion of how his approach is to that self and the mind. Number two, I need you to describe and explain George Herbert's beliefs on the important roles of play, the I and the me, and the taking the role of the others. So, in that particular one, you need to define the 5 stages of how we take the role of the other person, which is in the PowerPoint and in the video as well. And what is your opinion of the role of play? So you're saying playing team sports, kids have an imagination, so to say, is very important. And also talk about George Herbert Mead 5 stages of taking the role of the other. So I need you to define it, how it is, what he says, George Herbert Mead says about the importance of play. Also define what he describes as the I and the me, and how we take the role of the other person as the generalized other person, whether we met this person or not. So the other thing, talking about how important it is, the 5 stages, talk about that. But then also want your opinion on the role of play, his 5 stages, and to taking the role of the other. So really pay attention to that and kind of definitely explain in detail all the questions in that particular answer. Question number 2. Number 3, how are children being socialized into their gender role? Very important. Needs an answer to that. We talk about gender socialization, and gender socialization starts out with the family. Gender reveal parties. This is blue or what's pink, as far as what's a girl or boy, and then we're starting at birth of being socialized into these gender roles. Then we also look at how the mass media, you know, uh, television, advertisement, and video games is we influence how we're socialized into our gender roles. So definitely need you to talk about that, and also give me an example of each one, how the mass media, television, advertisement, and video games influence how we're socialized into our gender roles. So the advertisement, if we, in the discussion video, in the lecture video, we talk about as far as, how even the Axe commercial. You put on the Axe commercial, it attracts wet women. Old Spices is masculine commercial. What shows up on television, what's being portrayed in the advertisement as far as commercials, different things, and even video games. All of that teach lessons in gender. But also just give me an example how each one does that. Explain also how the agents of socialization affect how we are socialized. The agents of socialization, the education, the school, your peers, your family, and how they are each a part of how we're being socialized. And define it, it's in the PowerPoint presentation in my video. Then I need you to define and give me an example how each agent of socialization, how they help socialize us into our gender roles. So I need you to explain it, define it, and give me an explanation on your opinion. I mean, example on your opinion. Number 5, it goes to Irving Goffman, dramaturgy theory. Talk about what's the front stage and backstage, and tell me what's the difference. So you talk about dramaturgy theory, define that, but then give me your difference between what's the front stage and how different it is from the backstage, how you step out into your performance and the script, stage, and costume, and in the backstage you retreat from your performance. And give me an example how a person, and it's just your opinion, give me an example how a person is using the front stage and how a person is using the backstage in your opinion. So that's the discussion questions for this week for socialization. Next thing up, of course, is the exam, and then we talk next about social control and deviance. So remember to watch the PowerPoint presentation, answer the discussion questions, watch my video, and also feel free to have any questions, and feel free to contact me and continue on respectively responding to 2 of your colleagues and giving respectable full answers.